Hey everyone. I saw a short video by Ben Shapiro. I posted it earlier today, and I was getting on my phone to do something, and then it popped up without even doing anything. So I watched it again. Or actually, it was a short, which I guess can happen. That's kind of normal. So, but it was like a short of that short video of his. But anyway, so just like when I first saw it, I'm thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. I mean, do we really know what we're saying when we say the things we say, like the things he's saying? Ben Shapiro. I mean, it's like what we say, we're saying the answer. We're saying we're saying something that is so insane, and yet it's like, are we not seeing what we're saying is I'm not saying he's insane or anything like that. I'm saying that, okay, what he said is, and I shared it. This is like my chapstick. Lipstick is actually better than chapstick. Um, Not for you guys though. So basically, what he's saying is Iran isn't hitting Israel because Iran knows, and he's not the first one that has said this lately. I don't know who else has said this, but they're basically saying all the Israeli channels that I've watched so far, I think they are the ones that have said it first, like last week probably, and they said, "Yeah, why isn't Iran hitting Israel? Why isn't Iran hitting Israel right now?" And first of all, Iran, I don't think ever has been hitting Israel. It's Hezbollah, right? Iran has been hitting everyone in the Middle East. So I don't know if what they mean by that is Hezbollah isn't hitting Israel right now, but I haven't checked. I haven't checked to see if they've been attacked by Hezbollah lately, but I didn't know what that meant. So I didn't really, but they keep saying that. They keep saying Iran isn't hitting Israel right now because they know that if they hit us, we're going to just go for the jugular. Okay, what does that tell us when we say that? What? It tells us that Israel knows where everybody is and who to hit. And it tells us that Israel tells America all their intel. So America knows the same stuff. So, like I've been saying a long time ago, ever since I heard Pete Hegseth, when I shared that a long time ago, he said, we can just walk in there. It's so degraded. He said, we've been doing, during the ceasefire, we've been, doing our due diligence and we know where everybody is. We know what they're doing. And I'm thinking, why are we not taking them out then? So when we say these things, shouldn't we be saying, well, these are the bad guys. We've been dealing with them for 47 years. We would be happy to, we would enjoy every second of taking them out. Why are we not doing that? Especially way before those midterm deadline, like we're thinking midterms now. Back then in February, I mean, sure, a ceasefire because of the Straits, it kind of choked them and strangled them a little bit, suffocated them some. But after that, what was the deal with this MOU? I think it's because of the Erdogan, whoever, because it had to have been in the start of the war in February. Trump must have asked Erdogan, please don't strike. And he didn't. So ever since then, Trump has been what? Tiptoeing through the tulips because Erdogan said thank you, or he's like, thank you for not getting involved. And so now he doesn't want to push Erdogan over the edge by totally taking Iran out immediately? Huh? That's a creepy, scary thought. And it's wickedness if that's what's going on. Because I'm sure Trump knows all about Erdogan, because what I've heard is that Trump sanctioned him a few times. Trump reprimanded him a few times because of a few times that he was in bed with the enemy and caught. And so basically, whenever we say things like this, things like, oh, they're not striking Israel because Israel would really take them down all the way, that should tell us that America isn't taking them down all the way. It also explains why Trump kept jumping on Bibi about hitting Hezbollah. And he used the ruse that we're in a ceasefire, we're in a blah blah. No, it was all for Erdogan. Let's not piss Erdogan off. We don't want to get him too good. We don't want to get him all the way because of Erdogan. I mean, why is he afraid of him? And now they're starting to talk all about China and Russia collusion. And yeah, this ceasefire gave them, I guess they're figuring it out now, that China and Russia were supplying them and supplying them and supplying them. How? Oh, wow. Bullshit. They knew. They knew. They had to have known. You guys, I don't know what it is with America, but America always takes these wars and drags them out. And for all we know, this MOU was just stalling to where it would get us up to a certain point where Trump would have to then drop it all because of midterms. But since 3 soldiers or 2 soldiers got killed, and before that it was something else, the helicopter, and then that paused for a while. Then after that it was something else. Maybe they were blowing up a boat in the Hormuz. And so then Trump goes back to the kinetic energy stuff. And it's like, this could have been prevented if you had taken them out. Like Israel probably knew where they all were. Hegseth knew where they all were. Do you have to wait for people to die? Always? In every one of these stupid wars we get in? We always have to drag them out. Why? He would have won midterms big time if he's afraid of Erdogan. For some reason. I don't know why. And it could be because he just can't kill 2 countries of terrorists. But still, even then, it's like I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt with that. I'm thinking maybe he's just going to get Turkey later because Turkey can't have those F-15s or whatever they are until 5 years from now. And maybe by then he's going to, before he leaves office, he's going to try to, and it's not just, it's just too, that's just so far-fetched to be thinking of all scenarios when it should have been cut and dry. Why were you yelling at Bibi? He was defending himself. Why are you sticking up for the murderer? Oh, we told the murderer ceasefire. Since when do we take orders from mass murderer Jack the Rippers? When? You guys, this is so insane the way we sound. I'm not joking. This is, how they say about common sense and how crazy the left is because of this derangement that seeps in, like that toxic stuff, like that Gad was talking about. It's just pinworms or something in the crickets. I mean, we hear this stuff and we're thinking, oh, let's just say the news and then say our little spin on it, when really common sense would tell you that if Israel knows where they all are, and that's why Iran isn't hitting them, that's why Hezbollah isn't hitting them, why do we report like that? Do you see how that doesn't make sense? Instead, we should be saying, Iran isn't hitting Israel. Oh, Iran isn't hitting Israel because they're afraid to hit Israel, because Israel knows where they all are, and they can, let's go hit Israel. Let's go hit Iran now, because Israel must know. See? And still even that's stupid, because America knows what Israel knows. And if America knows that Iran isn't hitting Israel because if Israel knows it, well, America already knew what Israel knew before we figured out that's why Iran isn't hitting Israel. America already knew. Anyway, so Ezekiel 38, yeah, that's Turkey too. So now China and Russia are involved. That's Ezekiel 38 too. So that means that whenever God is ready, which, God could have made Trump pussyfoot around like this, and do this to Israel, and do this to America, do this to the Iranians. When you have mass murderers do not get rights. They do not get common decency. They are not our moral equivalent. They are mass murderers. They do not get anything but annihilation. And when you jack around with them, when you know better, I was thinking this is just all kind of a game because Iran is so huge and they're hiding and they're this and that. Oh, people don't want boots on the ground. Well, all this time we wasted fiddle farting around. Boots could have been on the ground. Drones, no drones, I don't know. I'm sure we could have done something. And that would have been much better for midterms. But I'm not saying this has anything to do with midterms, because he's going to win. If he's going to win, he's already looking good. But it's an excuse. And I don't know why he's doing that. I don't know why. He started working on the midterms like a month ago when it was way too soon for that. This is just so crazy. Israel knows where they all are, so Iran is afraid of Israel. And America should know we're not stupid. We got intelligence. We got FBI. That's what those are there for. The CIA, the FBI, intelligence, they all know it all. So what are they waiting for? And I think it's Erdogan. And China and Russia. What, were they stalling so that they could catch Russia and China? I'm tired of making excuses, because this is ridiculous. Every war is always a botched debacle. Why? It's weird. It's very weird. And now, if Russia gets pissed off because we're mad at them, and China, Trump is openly saying China, China, China. And so what? If it's true, it's true. You don't need to be afraid of mass murderers. So, yeah, I hope Ezekiel 38 happens. And I'm still studying, and I was coming to a few different conclusions about the Matthew 24, but it can be kind of confusing, but like I said, there's some reasons that I'm thinking about. But all I know is that the other scriptures don't lie, like Zechariah 14. And all the prophets, Ezekiel 38:17, that one verse that everybody overlooks. Nobody ever asks, what are they talking about, all those prophets? Even when I did my Ezekiel 38 video, I was reading it, and I came across that verse, and I was like, oh, I wonder who those prophets are. I think I did it in my video. If I didn't, I did it afterward when I was reading it again or before. But that is a clue that nobody really touches on. And now, and like even in the Matthew 24, I think Jesus similarly says it too, that we've been talking about nations, and all the prophets are always saying that one event, nations are going to surround Jerusalem. So when, like I've been saying in my videos, how that, and also tonight I realized too, when I'm reading about, because I Googled how many times in the Gospels or the Bible, not just the Gospels, does it talk about Jesus coming in the clouds or coming like lightning in the sky in great glory? Okay, I think it's 5 times. And one of the times he's coming with his saints. Another time he's coming in the clouds and he's gathering elect or saint elect. And then the other times it's like he's coming in the clouds. So I know people want to say, oh, well, that's for the millennium, or that's for the end at Armageddon when he's coming back with all his saints. Still, he's coming in a cloud. He's coming in a cloud. And coming in a cloud. I even Googled, why do they say that when Jesus steps foot on the Mount of Olives and it splits in two, why do they say it's at the end of the trib? And all they said is just one verse. Oh, it's because of Acts 1:11 is why. And you go read it, Acts 1:11. It's not a good reason to say that the Mount of Olives, Jesus stepping, is the second coming. That's not good enough reason. I'm sorry. Unless Google hasn't given me all the verses and they only gave me one. But they told me, I said, why? Why did they say that Jesus stepping on the foot of Mount of Olives is the second coming? Why? Why do they say that? Why? And all they gave me was Acts 1:11. That's why. And so I read it. I don't remember what it says, but it doesn't. It's like, that's what you're using? That is not a good enough reason to say that about Jesus stepping foot on the Mount of Olives. That's not good enough reason. I'm almost here. Hold on. So I'm saying it ain't. I'm saying it ain't. I'm saying it's Zechariah 14 and it's the Mount of Olives in the beginning. 1:11. Maybe I can do it without my glasses. Which also said, oh yeah, you men of Galilee. That's the one I would quote a lot. You men of Galilee, why do you stand gazing up into heaven like in this same manner Jesus is coming back? And they say, oh, well, when he ascended like that, he was on the Mount of Olives. Big whoop. Big whoop. And tell me, why, in like manner I'm coming? Why do they just insinuate that it's the second coming? It could very well be his rapture first coming. Oh, it's because it doesn't fit within the clouds. In the clouds is not coming to earth, which Jesus does say, I'm coming in the clouds. He does say, I'm coming. He doesn't say, I'm rapturing you. I'm coming to rapture. But in this verse, I'm like manner coming on the foot of Mount Olives. No. It's a very flimsy, super flimsy argument. And when you've got Zechariah and you've got every single prophet talking about the nations gathered, that's stupid. And what else was I going to say? Okay, so nations gather. Oh, I was going to say, it's a 7-year deal. Ezekiel 38:9 is a 7-year deal. Tribulation is a 7-year deal. That means, okay, and then I'm trying to make a list, like how they tell us, what I think, and what they tell us, and what I think, and what they tell us, and so I'm even asking Google stuff, and she doesn't even understand it. Like I said once, I said, where's my other phone? I don't know. I said, something. I asked her a few questions because I asked her a couple different ways, and she gave me a couple different answers. Something about if the beast is the Antichrist, and the Antichrist is in the beginning, because then the beast rises from the abyss in the mid-trib, and yet you're saying something about, I don't remember. I would have to, oh, here's the phone. Okay. Let me now go through these other pictures. So, because I've taken some more. The anointed one will be killed. Hold on. Okay. You also have to remember Matthew 24 has already happened in history. But not all of it has. That's why when you look it up in history, when it really happened, when Jerusalem was sacked, the second temple was destroyed. Remember those zealots on Masada? For 3 years, they stayed on Masada fighting off the Romans because they already read that prophecy. Jesus might come. I mean, I can't like point it all out to you right now, but I was looking and seeing how they were totally expecting Jesus to come. Probably. So they were holding out. Now they're zealots. I don't know if zealots were Christ believers, even if the Jews have been looking for the Messiah. So they were Jews, but I don't know if zealots are considered like observant Jews, or if they're just kind of heathenistic Jews. You know what I mean? Okay, the timing. Hold on. I think I asked something about, okay, the rise of the beast in Revelation. Beast rises out of the sea. Yeah, see, they go by that in Daniel and stuff. So the beast is rising out of the sea. And that's in 13. But the beast rising out of the abyss, I think, is in 11. Or is this Revelation? Yes, it's Revelation. Okay, then the Bible describes a mid-trib. However, Scripture describes the beast rising from the abyss to kill the 2 witnesses. Yes, that's what they're saying. Yeah, but then you also have the beast rising from the sea. You have, I forget what else. But see, this stuff is just twists my mind so badly. I can kind of figure it out a little bit for a while, and then my mind just crashes, and I'm like, I can't even think of one more thing right now because my mind is so mangled trying to. So I started going with things like this. I'm like, okay, what is the beast? Is it Satan? Is it the Antichrist? Is it this? So, I mean, I just start focusing on something else to try to, you question what you know will bring on some sense. It'll maybe undo the puzzle or fit the puzzle. So that's what I was kind of doing. I don't know how to explain it. Okay, so, just like things like the whore has to die, and I'm sure she has to die at mid-trib, like as in when the Antichrist becomes the Antichrist. Okay, so I don't remember what I was asking, and I don't always clip or picture my question, so I won't even remember my question. Okay, so I was asking something about the whore. They destroy her, yeah, to claim her wealth. The timing, Pasha says that death happens after a specific timeline of, yeah, okay, this was about the Matthew 24 happened. So in Matthew, when he says Daniel the prophet, however it goes, like whoever reads, understand. Well, look, in history, the timing is exact. The passage says this death happens. Okay, it's talking about, okay, there's another verse that says the Messiah will be cut off. That is Daniel 9:26. Jesus was cut off. Jesus was talking to them on the Mount of Olives saying, this is what's going to happen. They asked him 2 questions. He's giving them 2 answers. They are saved Jews believing in Christ. Jesus isn't just talking to them. He's not really talking to them. He's just telling them what it's going to be. He's not saying you necessarily. He's saying this is what will happen. You asked me the question and I'm going to tell you the question. I'm going to tell you the answer. He's not necessarily, but of course in their mind, they're always thinking Jesus is coming back again. So here, then the passage says this death happens after a specific timeline of 62 weeks, representing 483 years after a decree to rebuild Jerusalem. This points perfectly to the timing of Jesus' earthly ministry. The temple falls next. The verse also states that after the Messiah is killed, the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. This was fulfilled in 70 AD. So when Jesus says in Matthew 24, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, those disciples hadn't seen. Okay, wait. The Messiah, okay, Daniel the prophet said that prophecy. Daniel 9:26 was 483 years when Jerusalem finally was abominated and desolated, spoken of by Daniel the prophet. It happened in 70 AD. The disciples hadn't seen it yet. They saw it, obviously, maybe they were dead by then, but it was fulfilled, okay? And then I already did a post about Mark. Probably doesn't say that. But like I said, in some of that in Matthew and Mark and Luke have not happened yet. And also, God repeats things like Babylon, like Sodom and Gomorrah, like other things. So, this Ezekiel 38 war. Everybody loves to quote things on like out in the and with nothing. And then these people like myself even run with it. Oh, once they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. Oh. Well, they don't ever bother to quote the other verse that says in the middle of the week, which is a good 3.5 years after the tribulation has begun, that's when the abomination. So it isn't sudden destruction. Yeah, the Bible says that. But like I've been saying in my videos, before I remembered the other verse, it doesn't necessarily mean sudden destruction after they say peace and safety. Because the other verse says it isn't sudden destruction after they say peace and safety. It takes 3.5 years. So Ezekiel 38 can happen. 7 months they're burying the dead. That gives you 2 years and 7 months. That gives you just under 3 years. Okay? And then again it'll repeat. There's going to be an abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. So, or the nation is surrounded, okay? And then, we're not talking about that. So, in the 7-year, Ezekiel 37, when they hear the abomination of desolation, the Antichrist is basically in the temple saying he is God. If he's saying he is God, he's definitely going to take away the sacrifice. Because he's saying he's God, I'm here, you don't need to make a sacrifice anymore, right? And I was saying how, in my post, how Ezekiel 38, the nation, they're surrounding something in that war. If God can allow people, make them stab themselves, the bad guys, he can make them demolish that dome over Mount Moriah. because the Holy of Holies was built upon that Mount of Moriah. And when Rome destroyed that temple, all was left was Mount Moriah. And that happened in what, 70 AD? And if you look it up, when the Muslims built that dome on Mount Moriah, that's not theirs. Mount Moriah is not their property, but they're thieves, jealous, and disgusting human beings. So they, like in 600 something, I took a picture, they built that dome when they conquered the place, okay? Yeah. Dome of the Rock was built between 685 and 691 CE. It was ordered by the Muslim ruler Caliph Abd al-Malik. You know, I'm not going to, not that I can, but I don't like hearing Americans or English-speaking people or even a foreign person perfectly, with no accent, speaking these Muslim words and names. I wouldn't even give them the butcher their name, in other words. Don't give them any compliments by saying it's so fluent and perfect. Like some people will say Islam or however, Muslim. Like they're totally American accent, but as soon as they say these Arab shit words, they'll use that perfect. Like when I spoke some Farsi words, I did make sure I had no accent. You know, like Shalom, halachatori, tori, hobi. You know, I'm not as good with the whole, but I tried to get the perfect Iran Farsi accent, okay? Because I cared. I don't give a shit about these shitheads. I'm not going to say their name with a perfect no accent. Okay, so anyway, sorry for that little rant. This means the rock sat completely open for about 600 years after the Romans destroyed the Jewish Second Temple, 70 CE. Okay. That dome needs to go, and if God can make them turn their swords on each other, he can make some kind of bomb. But I don't think anything's going to go over Jerusalem. It's going to go over, like, maybe like Nathan said, Haifa and Tel Aviv. But God might blow that dome off. I don't know. So listen, 7 years. They're going to be burning those weapons. 3.5 of those 7, let's say, there's an abomination of desolation in the temple. Well, there is no temple unless they put up a tent and call it the temple. But if that Dome of the Rock gets destroyed and they can whip out a temple on Mount Moriah after Ezekiel 38, war and God and the whole world sees how God delivered Israel and turned everybody on the enemies on themselves. The whole world might see the Dome of the Rock, the dome get ripped off. Again, you have to remember there's a peace treaty of 7 years. The first 3.5 years is going to be peace until that Antichrist says, ooh, I'm God. Everyone's going to love the Antichrist before Satan indwells him, probably because he's going to say, okay, the bully Islam Gog is dead and he's buried in Haman Gog. Okay, all the dead bodies have been buried for 7 months. That's all done. Those were bad Islam. We're not going to let the bully Islams do anything anymore. We're going to, whatever Islam is left, and Muslims, as long as you're nice, we're not going to be anti-Semitic anymore. All the Jews are gone. All those pesky Christians are gone because the rapture and the hiding in the wilderness. And they'll say whatever Jews are remaining, whatever Christians and nominal and whatever, they'll be like, okay, we'll let you Christians have your religion. We're going to let, these Muslims, we're going to let the Jews. And that's where you get this peace for 3.5 years. They're traipsing back and forth for the Feast of tabernacles from Egypt to Assyria year after year, Zechariah, until all this mess hits the fan. So, okay, at the 3.5 year mark. And to me, because Jesus mentions it himself in Matthew 24, I don't remember how he says it or where, but he's even mentioning pretty much Ezekiel 38, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. But I don't think it's quite that verse. He kind of words it like he is saying the same thing that Ezekiel 38:17 says, where the prophets have been telling you about this war surrounding. And then he says something like, immediately after the tribulation of those days, it'll go dark. I halfway think it's that Ezekiel 38 war when it's dark during. And then he says, then you'll see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. Okay, that could be Zechariah 14, where at night, in the evening, it becomes light for a day. It becomes light. Maybe that's Jesus coming in the clouds after the tribulation of those days. Some of the Jews get hidden and the other ones fly and stuff, and we get raptured and all this. A lot of Jews, pesky Jews and pesky Christians will be raptured, hidden, whatever. And then and then the ones left are doing the burying for the 7 months. They're like, all eyes are going to see him. They're going to weep for him whom they have pierced. I mean, for all we know, all the Jews. Okay, so I've read you the verses already where God is going to take all that nasty out of their heart. If they're idol worshiping, if they're this and that. Basically, he died for their sins. Okay, I told you Isaiah 53. Now, maybe he's not going to hide them just because they're weeping and all that. Maybe he wants them to stay and bury them. Maybe it's other people that are going to bury all the dead. Because, okay, they're burning the fuel for 7 years. Well, in the middle of that breaking of the peace treaty, in the middle of the 7 years of burning the fuel, in the middle of the trib, when they break the peace treaty and you run for the hills, okay, that's when no longer it's freedom of religion. Oh, you Jews, you can come up and back and forth from Egypt to Assyria to Jerusalem every year, and no more of that. No more of that. It could be a repeat again of running for the hills. With the rest of the Jews that are there, with some Gentiles, whoever those Gentiles are. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm still writing stuff down. And then I get sidetracked on something else. And then I got stuff I do outside of this. So all I'm saying is Ezekiel 38, war of Gog and Magog. That's all them people up there that we're messing with now. Russia, China, Iran, Persia, they're all there now. And if China and Russia are supplying Iran and Hezbollah right now during ceasefire, point is, God has to put the hook in the jaw. They're not going to do none of this themselves. God says in Zechariah, he's going to gather the nations. He has to make the nations do this. He has to put the hook in the jaw. He has to put a thought in their mind. They're not going to just get up one day and go, yeah, let's do it. It's a good day. No, God is going to, whether they want to do it or not, God is going to make them do it. Yeah. Hi, Bobs. So, baby dad, he's sick of it. So anyway, you guys, I don't know why America does this. I don't know why Trump is doing this. I don't know why. He's smart. He's half Jew, growing up in New York. Why is he doing this to Israel? Why would you favor a Turkish person that you've had to sanction in the past? And you know he's part of the Brotherhood, and I think that's why he sanctioned him. Why would you put mass murderers and an Erdogan above your friend, Bibi, and Israel? Trump knows history. Why did he do this? Why did he choose Erdogan over helping the Iranians get free? Over bonding with Israel to say, let's get this done together all the way. No pausing, no ceasefire. Sure, it was okay. The Strait of Hormuz closed it. They lost 5 million a day, 500 million a day. That was a good little find. I don't think he planned on that. He happened upon that. He utilized that for a while. That was okay. But he took it a little too far. He did the MOU and he was bitching at Bibi. Why? He should have said, look, Bibi, isn't this cool? We'll drown him a little bit with this Strait of Hormuz choke point, choking him. And instead of doing the MOU, he should have gone right back to Bibi and said, okay, let's finish it because the market is kind of tanking. We need to help the market and we need to give it a breather. I just don't know. I don't know. It could also be God. God is making Trump do it this way because maybe America is going to get destroyed too. America isn't in end time prophecy. So I don't know. I thought about that earlier, but I don't remember what I was thinking. But, that's a possibility too because China hates America. You've heard the news about, maybe it was Eric Stakelbeck today, said something about China has always wanted to take over America. They buy our land. No, it was another lady. It was Alan Jackson with his guest was a lady. China just hates America. They want to take America over. Russia does. Everybody seems to want to take over America. So, all I'm saying is when God decides to put the thought in their mind and to gather the nations against Jerusalem and to put hooks in their jaws, that's what they're going to do. Now, if America gets annihilated for some reason, it will be because God put it in their mind, because God made Trump pause too long and side with the enemy more than siding with Israel. God might have made Trump do that so that God could get this done, destroying America. I don't know. I mean, after the rapture, America might still be here. I don't think America is Babylon, the whore, the harlot, because it says that great city. Jesus compares it to Noah and Lot. Noah is the whole world. In the end, the whole world is going to be destroyed. In Sodom and Gomorrah, it was just one city. One city got destroyed. So when God says it's a city, it's a city. I don't think America is a city. Last time I checked, it's a country. So if the book says city, it's a city. Now, if you want to say it might be New York, good. Maybe California. But I don't think it's the whole America is Babylon because it has to match. Noah was the whole world and Lot is a city. So Babylon, I forgot what else that city could be. Oh, it could be the Vatican. Isn't that its own city? City Vatican? Yeah, on Seven Hills. Anyway, that's what the whole Google is always saying, that it's that. So even when Jesus says false prophets are going to rise and this is Christ and that's Christ, that could also be Islam is a false prophet, a false Christ. Remember, they're always saying Allah Akbar. That means God is greater, greater than God, greater than Christ, greater, greater, greater. False Christ. Anti-Messiah. It's a false Messiah, okay? Allah Akbar, he's not greater. He's not even God. at all. It could mean that. It could mean false prophets, false Christs. They're going to do lying signs and wonders. That sounds like the false prophet in the trib that they talk about, which I don't know much about. So I forgot why I was saying that. Anyway, okay, you guys, this turned into too much of something, but I'm sorry. And maybe one day I'll get back on here if I don't fry my brain to a total short-circuited, blow it up, and never look at this stuff again. I don't know. If that doesn't happen, I'll get back on here and tell you what I think. Otherwise, I'll never do it if I can't figure it out satisfactorily. But it doesn't mean I think the other way is correct. That doesn't make sense. So, if anything, I'm just going to stick to what I know so far. I think it all fits because people want to throw things out there like peace and safety, sudden destruction without the other verse. They want to say, oh, in the trib, you're going to have to take the mark of the beast. Yet they don't say the first 3.5 years, there's going to be a peace treaty, you fool. They just totally take chunks and skip out on them. And you shouldn't do that because the first 3.5 years are going to be peaceful. There's going to be a whore of Babylon. They're going to be doing a lot of great things until Antichrist gets possessed by the devil. And great tribulation happens then. So anyway, I don't like that all. I don't see how second coming on the Mount of Olives. I like Zechariah 14. And Zechariah talks about the 2 witnesses, and the 7 candlesticks are the 7 churches in Zechariah and in Revelation. And that isn't the millennium. But nobody wants to talk about that because they can't fit it into their little second coming. La, 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 la. Anyway, all right. Well, bye, you guys. Hopefully, this is the beginning of the end. Unless Trump decides. It's not only Trump. If God doesn't like this, he can rip him back into shape and say, no, you're not doing this. God has allowed it. And maybe God has been the one swaying him to do it this way. Is because I don't like getting mad at Trump. I'm not going to do it. Because, like I've said, when you have a leader set in there by God, whether it's Biden or Trump, you can't get mad at Biden because that's how we're able to pray for our leaders. First of all, because we know they're not the Antichrist, because God told us to pray for them. Second, because God sets them up in there. And he sways their hearts. And if it's a bad president, it's not solely their fault. It's because God wants judgment on us. And so, I mean, I didn't really take all this into consideration when Biden was in office. I was like cursing it the whole time, but I know now better. And I don't do that. So, but yeah, it's okay to get mad at Trump sometimes when you're thinking, what are you doing? It's not like we're meaning it like we're cursing him. We're just literally like you would a friend. You're like, what the hell are you doing? Stop. It's not like we're disparaging him, So, but anyway, okay, well, bye, you guys. And God bless you. Bye.